Welcome back to Transfer News Live. I'm Statman Dave and this is the Scout Report, the number one place for analysis on the biggest transfers in Europe. Today, we're going to be talking about Enzo Maresca's Chelsea. Maresca's done a pretty good job since taking over control at Stamford Bridge, winning the Conference League, a major European honour, and getting Chelsea back into the Champions League. But it's only a start and Chelsea do need to improve in a number of areas. So today, we're going to analyse the squad and we're going to suggest a number of signings that Chelsea should make in the summer transfer window. Right, let's start in between the sticks. This is a big area that Chelsea need to improve. I think if Chelsea improved in both boxes, that's scoring goals and saving goals, they would be very much in the title race. So first and foremost, their current goalkeeper, Robert Sanchez, quite frankly, isn't good enough. 5 errors leading to goals in the Premier League this season was the most of any player. If we take away those 5 goals, Chelsea had the second best defensive record in the Premier League. They need a keeper that doesn't chuck it into his own goal. But Chelsea have got options here. They could go into the transfer market, or they could get someone back from Strasbourg and put them in between the sticks. That, of course, is Petrovic. He's a keeper that's really improved this season under Liam Rosenior in Ligue 1. Strasbourg, one of the surprise packages. We're going to speak about another Strasbourg player later on this video that, again, Chelsea will be recalling, that will be back into the first team squad and maybe even pushing for a starting spot. But let's focus on Petrovic. He's a goalkeeper that statistically ranks very, very well. But the important thing is he doesn't seem to make errors. He's got 1 error leading to a shot in Ligue 1 through the entire season versus 5 errors that led to goals for Robert Sanchez. He's a keeper that's had a lot of promise, that has really grown in the last 12 months, that could do a great job for Chelsea in between the sticks. Of course, if you're looking for a player to be signed, Mike Mignon is the keeper on the market available. His contract does expire in 2026. According to reports, AC Milan want around 30 million euros. Chelsea don't want to go above 10 at the moment, but you could see them coming together and agreeing a fee from Mike Mignon, who's been one of the best goalkeepers in Europe's top 5 leagues over probably the past 5 seasons. But if we look at the data, he's starting to regress in terms of expected goal numbers. He's conceded more than he should have expected in each of his 4 last years. So maybe that's a slight red flag. But if you can sign someone like Mike Mignon for around 20 million euros, I still think that's value. So let's move into defence, starting at centre-back. I think the left-sided centre-back picks himself. Levi Colwill has got all the raw materials to be a dominant top-class centre-half, and we've got to remember that he's 22 years old, so there is room for improvement under Enzo Maresca. I think the issue has been on the other side of that pairing. Levi Colwill hasn't really found a perfect partner. We've seen the likes of Tossen play pretty well there. You've got Badiashile that's been really hot and really cold. Wesley Fofana, I think, is just crocked and Chelsea need to move on. And of course, Trevor Chalobah has shown really good moments, but maybe not have the consistency required to be a title-winning centre-back pair. So I do think that's where Chelsea have got to move into the market, and I think it's got to be a quality player. I don't think signing another defender from Ligue 1 that could potentially make it or not is the option. But I think if they are to look once again into Ligue 1, I know Chelsea fans don't want to hear this, but Alexandro Ribeiro from Lille looks very good, both feet passing out from the back. But in terms of the Premier League ready signing, it would be Kim Min-jae from Bayern Munich. Reports out of Germany is that Jonathan Tah and Upamecano are going to be the first choice centre-back pairing under Vincent Kompany next season. So Kim Min-jae is free to leave. This guy is a really good defender. Aggressive, physical, good on the ball. He's arguably perfect for the Premier League. And I think one of the things I like about him is his ability to kind of read the play and make interceptions. In terms of statistics, Kim Min-jae ranked in the top 12% of centre-backs for interceptions in Europe's top 5 leagues, which is impressive considering Bayern Munich had 68% possession last season. But Kim Min-jae is also very good in possession in terms of his progressive passes and passes into the final third. He ranks in the top 4 and top 2% for those statistics respectively. He's a player that I really like, that I think could provide a really good aggressive base for Chelsea, but also that quality and build-up. Kim Min-jae would be my number 1 signing for Chelsea at centre-back in the summer. Right, moving on to fullbacks, I do think they picked themselves. A fit Reece James is one of the best right-backs in the Premier League with that ability to not only invert, but provide width in the final third. Reece James has got a lot of quality, and it would be nice to see him play a full season because his level would be very high and it'd elevate Chelsea's performances. We've seen, obviously, Enzo Maresca manage his minutes this season, but I think this is the year where Reece James could really come alive in the Premier League once again. And that's what we want to see. We want to see young English players playing for clubs and dominating in their positions. Moving on to left back again, another name on the team sheet that we wouldn't expect. Marc Cucurella had a real torrid time at his start of his Chelsea career, but credit to him, put in the hard work and has become a very, very good player once again under Enzo Maresca. Be that being Chelsea kind of, building in their kind of 3-2-5 formation with Cucurella operating as a left-sided centre-back and being a player that kind of is playing the passes through the lines or even joining into the final third, overlapping or underlapping. He's really improved his game at Chelsea and credit to him for putting in the hard work at the hard time. So let's move into central midfield, an area of the pitch where Chelsea are absolutely stacked with talent. Caicedo, for me, has been probably the best holding midfielder in the Premier League this year. And Enzo Fernandez has really started to evolve in this kind of free 8 role that Enzo Maresca plays. Of course, what we tend to see is Enzo Fernandez moving into an advanced area, Cole Palmer sitting in that inside right channel, Caicedo moving as a sole pivot, and the right back moving into midfield, that either being as an attacking inverted wing back or sitting next to Caicedo and looking to distribute the play. But I think Chelsea are really good, not only on the ball, but I think off the ball, Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo deserve a lot of credit. In terms of shot creating actions following a defensive action, yes, again, winning the ball back and then shipping it quickly for one of the teammates to attack and directly get a shot on goal, Fernandez and Caicedo ranked number 1 and number 3 in the Premier League, showing how effective Enzo Maresca's press has been this season in terms of turning over the ball and then creating opportunities. I think let's focus on the defensive midfield position first. The 6th area for Chelsea has been an area that Caicedo has dominated. Only 3 outfielders in the Premier League this season played more minutes than Caicedo. He ranked number 3 in Europe's top 5 leagues for tackles plus interceptions, and he was also number 1 amongst midfielders for passes into the final third. He's a player that's massively evolved. He's a player that I absolutely love. He's a player that will keep improving and dominating more games. Again, Caicedo is undoubtedly the number 1, but I think for Chelsea, for variation, what we've kind of seen this season is Lavia come into the big games, Caicedo kind of move to a right back position, giving Chelsea a little bit more balance in that area, allowing Caicedo to becoming kind of a second defensive midfielder with Lavia, throwing Fernandez higher. We could potentially also see maybe Fernandez play as a number 10 next season, giving Chelsea a little bit more control, maybe pushing Palmer to a wide right or wide left or even a false 9 position. But I think also we look at Chelsea's signings or players that Chelsea have acquired over the last few seasons. Esugo has come in as well and done really well in La Liga. And when we look at his statistics, he ranks in the top 4% of central midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues for tackles plus interceptions. So you've got another player that can do that Caicedo dogged work. I quite like him as a kind of sole pivot player as well. I think he provides good quality in possession. He's got a good appreciation for space and where his teammates are. Keeps things nice and simple, moving the ball from left to right, forward, and also has got a bit of a good switch on him as well. So he's got the raw materials to be a really good pivot player under Enzo Maresca. Another young player, another good signing. Chelsea keep buying all the good young players in European football. In world football. Let's change that because we're going to be talking about a Brazilian very, very soon. But Esugo is going to be the 3rd choice, Lavia the 2nd choice, and of course Caicedo, number 1, one of the best midfielders in the Premier League this season from a combative perspective, winning the ball back and allowing his teammates to thrive. When talking about thriving, Enzo Fernandez is such an interesting player. He's arguably played his best football for Benfica in Argentina when he's had a real solid pivot next to him, allowing him to move the ball around, to be free. And this season, I think he's got a little underrated when we look at his statistics, really good. He ranks in the top 3% for chances created, top 6% for switches, and tackles in the final third, and the top 9% for through balls. He's a number 8 that is really thriving at Chelsea. And I think when we look at other players that are on the Chelsea books, Andre Santos is going to be coming back from Strasbourg in the summer. scored 10 goals in Liga this season. One of the top scoring centre midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues. Scores a lot of goals from corners, loves attacking the back post, either with his head or for tap-ins, and is a danger outside of the box. Scored a number of really good long-range goals, arriving late in those situations. I think from a possession perspective, he is far simpler and far safer than Enzo Fernandez. Is a player that will kind of retain possession, pass it around, when the opportunity is there. He is good at spotting the striker running in behind the defence, but more than not, it is him retaining possession, winning the ball back, allowing Chelsea's maybe defenders to progress the play. Could be a good option if Enzo Fernandez is injured, or you want a safer option, potentially, as we mentioned before, throwing Enzo higher up the pitch, kind of playing a more aggressive double pivot and having Enzo as that number 10, again, maybe with Palmer, as that kind of number 9, an area that Chelsea could be super fluid in a sense of maybe sit a bit like Liverpool. You think about their 2 strikers this season have been attacking midfielders. Their wingers have been the goal scorers. This is something that Chelsea could do if they super want to dominate the opposition, throwing 4 players in that central zone, potentially plus an inverted wing back as well. You've got a super overload in that area. But just an option for Chelsea. Again, I think them buying players this summer, not only is it improving the goalkeeper, improving the number 9, and maybe the centre-back, but I do think it's about what other tweaks can Chelsea make to make their system a little different. But let's move to that attacking midfield line again. Andre Santos going to be a good option in there, but we know that the first choice midfield for Chelsea, or midfield 3, is going to be, Cole Palmer, Caicedo, and Enzo Fernandez. Cole Palmer literally has been one of the best players in the Premier League since moving to Stamford Bridge. I love his creativity. I love his ability on the ball, his finishing, his penalties. Everything's been great. What I'd like to see with Cole next season is him given a little bit more freedom. We saw in the Conference League final that he took control of that game in that second half. There was less safe passes, there was more risky passes, and it paid off with a number of assists. I do think Enzo Maresca maybe needs to take a little bit of a look at the position and role that Pochettino gave Palmer, where he kind of had the freedom across that final third to do whatever he wanted to do, get on the ball in certain areas, be as direct as he wanted to be. Because at times Chelsea this season have been a little bit slow in the final third, a little bit boring in certain games. But I do think giving Cole Palmer the keys to this offense, allowing him to drift more, be the player that has the free role in an attacking sense, Chelsea are going to have a much better, weapon in the final third. Saying that, Cole Palmer was still the only player in Europe's top 5 leagues to have 200 shot-creating actions. Imagine a little bit more freedom. Could be up to 250. Crazy, crazy numbers. Right, let's move on to the attack. This is another area where Chelsea have a lot of talent. I think in terms of the kind of starters that we will tend to see, Madueke probably on the right-hand side and Pedro Neto on the left-hand side. A classic winger in Neto, left-footed, crossing into the box. Madueke inverting, driving inside and looking to bounce off Cole Palmer and create chances. This is definitely an area where Chelsea need a little bit more depth, more quality off the bench. I think when we're looking at the right wing first, Pedro Neto got only 1 assist in 14 games for Chelsea, so he's more suited to play on the left in this system and setup, whereas all of Madueke's 16 goal involvements came from the right wing. I think these guys will probably start the season, but at the end of the season, it could be very different. Estava is joining from Palermes. This kid is an absolute joke. He started the Brazilian Serie A season at 16 years old. He finished with the most goal involvements, 13 goals and 9 assists. His quality in dribbling, in carrying, in making things happen is absolutely ridiculous. And yes, he's been likened to Lionel Messi. His numbers have been crazy in the Brazilian Serie A. I don't expect him to start in the first team for Chelsea, but by the end of the season, I expect him to be the number 1 starter for Chelsea on the right wing. His talent is absolutely ridiculous. And that would be the dream scenario for Chelsea, I believe. The likes of Madueke maybe starting the season as the right winger, and then Estava being the guy at the end of the season, really making the moves for Chelsea in the final third. So let's move forward. Obviously, the left-hand side, Pedro Neto provides that classic classic wing option. But I think Chelsea do need to look at that position. Obviously, Jadon Sancho back at Manchester United wanted 300 grand a week, which was more than the likes of Cole Palmer. I don't know what that guy has for breakfast, but it's pretty crazy. So there is an opportunity for Chelsea once again to enter the market. I genuinely think Alejandro Garnacho would be perfect for this Chelsea team. Over the past 3 seasons, he ranked 6th in Europe's top 5 leagues for goal involvements for players under 20 years old. If we take a look at the rest of the list, it's pretty disgusting. Again, Garnacho can be frustrating at times. In the Premier League this season, he ranked 7th for carries that led to shots, but only scored 1 goal. This is something that needs to be coached into him, better decision making, but the talent is really there. If you can improve his finishing, which he massively underperformed his expected goals this season, you'd have a top player that can create something out of nothing and give Chelsea a massive weapon on the left-hand side of their attack. Saying that, other options that Chelsea have been looking at, Jamie Gittens from Borussia Dortmund. Gittens played in a very similar role to Enzo Maresca's left wing role under Nuri Sahin at Borussia Dortmund. That, of course, is the left back inverting either inside or playing deeper in a sort of ball-playing position, but allowing that player to have a 1v1 in the final third and very much operating as an inverted winger in that zone, looking to carry inside. I think versus Alejandro Garnacho, you'd probably say he's quicker, he's more powerful, he's probably a little bit better from a direct dribbling perspective, but maybe doesn't have the quality of Garnacho's finishing off both of his feet in that final third area. But in terms of getting under Sahin, it was 11 goals and 5 assists. A really, really good return. So I think either of those 2 players would be good for Chelsea, but I think number 1 should be Alejandro Garnacho. The lad's talent is ridiculous. Could get a really good player there. And we look at this Chelsea team. It is so young, but it is crying out for a number 9. Of course, Liam Delap is already joining Chelsea from Ipswich Town. And he's a player that I really like. He's a classic power forward. A player that likes to run the channels, that's good on the dribble in those areas, that has a lot of quality in terms of creating something for himself. And if we consider that 40% of the goals that Delap scored in the Premier League this season were on the counter-attack, he was feeding off scraps. I love the power that he finishes with. I love that he can dribble, he can take you on, but I tell you what, he's aggressive off the ball. He is horrible to play against. And when you consider that he played with Cole Palmer and under Enzo Maresca in the Manchester City Academy, this is a really good signing. But I do think Chelsea need 2 strikers. I think Delap would be the good backup. Hopefully they can sell Nicholas Jackson for around 30 million and then go back into the window. Obviously Delap has this kind of model as a power forward. Chelsea, in terms of that big striker, are looking at 2 players. It's either Gyökeres or Victor Osimhen. So in terms of those 2, what would each of them provide? Let's start with Victor Osimhen. Osimhen is a number 9. He's arguably a poacher in the final third. What that would mean for Chelsea is that there would be a lot of responsibility on creation for the 4 players behind Victor Osimhen, both in terms of the left winger and the right winger and the 2 free 8 players. There'd be a lot of responsibility there as Victor Osimhen would be in and around the penalty area operating as a poacher. And also as well, I think it's a slightly different skill set that they're looking at as a number 9 here, where Victor Osimhen scores a lot of goals with his head. Over the last 3 seasons at Napoli, only Harry Kane scored more goals in Europe's top 5 leagues with his head. You need to get the ball into the box with Victor Osimhen. So I think someone like, a Pedro Neto would suit playing with someone like Victor Osimhen. But I think the rest of the team would probably suit playing with Victor Gyökeres a lot more. Again, similar style to Liam Delap. He's a power forward. He's very good at running the channels, dribbling, attacking you, but also he is an absolute bagsman. But more importantly, Victor Gyökeres would be a massive upgrade on Nicholas Jackson, whose conversion rate was just 13% in the Premier League this season versus Victor Gyökeres's that was 28% in the league. He scored 12 more goals than any other player in Europe. One of the criticisms at Victor Gyökeres, he's a penalty merchant. But when you consider, since moving to Sporting Club de Portugal, he scored more goals than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues. So we can quash that rumour right now. Gyökeres is the right player. A player that likes it into feet, that can dribble, that can carry, that can drift wide, but can also score goals in the penalty area. He loves scoring cutbacks, loves powerful finishes, and will be perfect for Chelsea as their number 9. Chelsea don't need loads of signings, but they need to improve their squad in the 2 kind of important areas. That's up front and in between the sticks. Of course, guys, get into the comments below which players would you sign for Chelsea. I've been Statman Dave. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.